This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. After more than 6 months, residents from an evacuated building are being told they will soon be able to go home. Hundreds of people from Birchwood Terrace were displaced after serious structural deterioration left the apartment complex in unsafe living condition. Now they're getting the green light to go home. CBC's Felicia Adam has the story.
213.
After over 7 months in a hotel room, Debbie Ross and her 2 cats will be going home.
Yes, we get to go home.
Ross is one of the 250 tenants evacuated from Birchwood Terrace earlier this year due to structural problems. She and Joyce Hilborn, another resident, have been displaced since May 9th.
Nobody ever thought that we would get back there.
Okay.
Correct?
Right.
Nobody ever thought that we would go home.
They got an email saying the city had given the all clear for tenants to move back into the building, but the news comes with uncertainty.
We don't even have a move-in date. They said that they would be notifying every person individually, so we don't know when we're going to get that call.
The province has been footing the bill for residents staying in hotels, but that funding has to be renewed at the end of every month. And with no date confirmed to go back home, residents worry they may not have somewhere to stay after December 31st.
We should not right now be going through all the stress and thinking that we are going to be out on the street as of December 31st.
In a statement to CBC, the province says they will continue to support tenants as they move back home, but for Ross and Hilborn, they're still unsure what comes next. Judith Stanley, who lived at Birchwood Terrace for 10 years, says she won't be going back. When she went to get her belongings, Stanley says her things were tumbled with mice droppings everywhere.
They've got a lot of mice in the building as of right now. There is people coming in and stealing stuff out of apartments. I'd be worried about who still has a key for the apartment. It's just a lot to put up with.
CBC reached out to Ladco Company, which owns Birchwood Terrace, but did not hear back. Ross and Hilborn say the building is home for them, and moving away is just not an option. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
He's not even 30 years old, but soon this Manitoban will lose all ability to move the few muscles he still has control over. A drug could stop the progression or even reverse some of the effects of the degenerative disease, but the province won't pay for it. The CBC's Ian Fraze reports.
This is the only part of Jeremy Bray's body he can control. The 29-year-old has spinal muscular atrophy, a disease that's caused his muscles to waste away. His thumb is his last link to independence, allowing him to work as a data consultant. It gives him the ability to control his wheelchair around his parents' home in Rivers. And it gives him a sense of autonomy and hope.
There's lots in my life that gives me joy. I just try to live each day at a time and try to make it a good day.
Early on, Bray's parents noticed something about Jeremy was different.
Jeremy seemed to hit his milestones up till about a year, and he was starting to pull himself up onto furniture, and everything looked pretty normal. And then all of a sudden, he stopped doing that, and he wasn't getting up on furniture. He wasn't standing on his own.
Shortly after his first birthday, the Brays received a diagnosis. Jeremy had type 2 spinal muscular atrophy.
You know, you're scared. What do you do now? How are we going to cope? What's next?
What came next was Jeremy's perseverance through difficult physical challenges. He did well in school and hung out with his many friends, despite relying on a wheelchair since he was 4. He graduated from Brandon University with a degree in computer science. He's fought to remain positive despite this reality hanging over his head.
No matter what I do, eventually I'll lose, or my disease will progress throughout my whole body. all the voluntary muscles. So it's been very difficult.
Now the Bray family is fighting harder than ever. A treatment finally became available for Jeremy in the last few years. But he says the province is refusing to cover the hugely expensive drug that could improve his condition.
It's very frustrating that the province I live isn't willing to take those steps that other provinces are and have been taken. It's very, very frustrating.
The drug is called risdiplam. Doctors say it can stop the disease's progression and can reverse its effects in some patients, but none of these results are guaranteed. Quebec makes risdiplam available for every adult who needs it, but other provinces only allow it for people older than 25 on a case-by-case basis. These provinces are following guidance from Canada's drug agency. It never researched how the drug will impact adults older than 25.
It won't happen anymore because there's so much evidence right now it's working.
Dr. Xavier Rodrigue says it would be unethical to conduct a study in which some patients don't get the treatment. He's seen the drug work with 90% of his adult patients in Quebec.
A lot of nice story that people now go back to study, do a master.
By the time risdiplam was available in Canada, Jeremy was already older than the recommended cutoff age for the drug. Despite that, his family went to the former PC government to ask for an exception, but the Tories turned them down. Now the PC MLA for Rivers says the family's requests should have been granted.
Regardless of which government is in power, the answer from the bureaucracy has been the same, and I think that's wrong. I think the bureaucracy needs to get out of the way and provide this treatment to Jeremy.
One of the biggest hurdles, the price. Estimates suggest the drug costs $300,000 in the first year. But Jeremy says denying treatment also comes at a cost.
Ultimately, I'm going to be a greater burden on the healthcare system. I won't be independent. I'll be living on assistance. I'll be in the hospital more. As my respiratory system gets compromised, and then they'll have to deal with those additional costs.
He wants to make his case to the health minister directly. Yuzoma Asaguera is open to meeting with him, but they don't plan on budging from the federal agency's advice.
If there are any changes to the CDA recommendations, we would be very, very open to following those those updated recommendations.
It isn't known if the agency will change its recommendation. However, a national patient organization says that hasn't stopped Quebec, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and Ontario from making exceptions. Jeremy's dad is in awe of everything his son has gone through.
For him to fight this for so many years and to persevere the way he has, it's amazing. But I'm not sure I would have that fight. All his friends, and you know, they're still around. Many of them are still around, but they're off married, you know, have starting at the age where they're having kids. That's not an option for him, right? Like, it's that normalcy of life is just, it's not there.
Darren says he's determined to preserve the small amount of independence Jeremy has left.
But always in the back of his mind, he's getting weaker, and it's all gonna come to an end without a treatment. Experiencing some bit of gain in strength, as minimal as it might be, he loses that worry of regressing further, and that's everything, right? That's everything to him.
Weather specialist Riley Lachuk in now. And Riley, I see some snowflakes behind you, and that can only mean one thing.
Yeah, a little bit of snow into the morning hours today, Brittany, to the tune of 1 to 2 centimeters for Winnipeg. This is as of 9:30 this morning. I know we did see a little bit more snow after that into the morning hours today. Brandon, as expected, in that 10 to 15 centimeter range, as was parts of southwestern Manitoba, 10 centimeters in Morris. Miami, Manitoba, in the Morden-Winkler region, getting 18 centimeters as of this morning. We did clear a little bit, but back under the cloud cover here in southern Manitoba. We'll start to see that clearing out as we get through the overnight hours tonight. Minus 24 your overnight temperature tonight in Winnipeg. We'll actually see the temperature dropping a little bit again into the morning hours. So waking up to a mostly clear minus 25 first thing in the morning, a cold one if you're sending the kids off to school. And below seasonal once again tomorrow, looking at a high of minus 18 in Winnipeg, but mostly sunny sky. We'll talk about your Christmas forecast when I come back in a little bit.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
More healthcare voices are raising concerns about the work environment at CancerCare Manitoba. After the break, more on the fallout from a scathing report. Stay with us. Nurses warned CancerCare Manitoba about dangerous staffing levels and called for change nearly a year ago. That's according to documents obtained by CBC that reveal nurses have been trying to highlight concerns about dangerously low staffing at the provincial agency since last January. It comes following a scathing report from Doctors Manitoba. CBC's Gavin Axelrod has more.
Nurses who work at CancerCare wrote that letter to the board back in January. CBC News has obtained a copy of it.
Part of the letter said, quote, "This cannot continue. We are concerned that critical incidents may occur involving patient care and thus feel compelled to speak up." The nurses also wrote, "Thus far, the lack of resources has been addressed de facto by making nurses in clinics such as hematology cover multiple assignments. This is neither just nor feasible." Manitoba Nurses Union President Darlene Jackson says nurses there don't feel valued or respected.
They're just getting more and more and more work added to their plates every day, and to the point where their patient loads are unsustainable.
Nurses got a response from Board Chair Jeff Chipman in March, which CBC News has also obtained. Chipman said he recognized the urgency, especially in departments like hematology. He said steps were being taken to alleviate workload and improve nurse retention. On Wednesday, CancerCare's CEO sent an email to all staff regarding a scathing report from Doctors Manitoba, saying it was troubling some physicians aren't happy there, and they're committed to listening and having open and honest conversations to address challenges in the workplace. Doctors Manitoba and the Manitoba Nurses Union aren't alone in their assessment of CancerCare Manitoba. The Manitoba Association of Healthcare Professionals says members working there have voiced concerns for years.
The time is long past where something should have been done about this.
On Thursday, a spokesperson said CancerCare has taken steps to address concerns in the letter from nurses. Some of those things include further developing care models, increasing staffing for specific disease site groups, and staff engagement. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A regional planning framework for Winnipeg and its neighbours is not going ahead. The Winnipeg Metropolitan Region voted this morning not to proceed with Plan 2050. CBC's Bartley Kivas joins us to break down what this means and really why it matters. So, Bartley, what is the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region and what was Plan 2050?
Well, the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region is the city and 17 surrounding municipalities. Now, the former PC government under Brian Pallister, when he was around, he required them to put together a regional framework to coordinate infrastructure planning. This plan was created and it was going through a public hearing process over the past summer when it started to face widespread opposition.
So really, who was it that opposed the plan and why were they so opposed to it?
Well, two different groups of people. For starters, several mayors and reeves. Some of them complained, these mayors and reeves, about a loss of autonomy. This plan called for standardized guidelines for developing residential neighborhoods. And there was also opposition from people opposed to aspects of the plan that weren't even real. There was a public hearing in Niverville in August, and it had to be canceled after hundreds of people showed up.
So is that really all that it took to cancel this plan?
No, it wasn't. I mean, there was a period back in the summer where former Municipal Affairs Minister Ian Bushy defended the Plan 2050, and then days later, Premier Wabkinew announced the province will let municipalities in the Winnipeg Metro Region leave the Winnipeg Metro Region. The NDP government then introduced legislation to allow them to leave, and that legislation hasn't passed, but it effectively killed the plan. And that's why there was no opposition this morning to a motion to not proceed with the plan.
So where does this leave us? What happens next?
Well, it is interesting. In the meantime, in 2 years, the municipalities that choose to remain in the region expect to have a new plan. They have until 2027 to create a replacement plan. Some leaders, like Mayor Scott Gillingham of Winnipeg, say they fear major businesses will skip over the Manitoba capital in favor of other provinces and other provincial capital areas because they can't count on consistent planning rules here.
All right, thanks so much.
You're more than welcome.
CBC's Bartley Kivas. Manitobans will have to wait another week to find out whether the provincial government plans to bring back the gas tax. The NDP government suspended the 14 cents a litre tax in 2024. That cost the province about $340 million. Finance Minister Adrian Sala said Tuesday that he would provide an update this week. A spokesperson for the minister says the future of the gas tax will be announced next week instead. Police are laying more charges against a former Winnipeg teacher who's already facing charges involving a sexually exploitative relationship with a student. Police now say Matthew James Musso hurt and had exploitive conversations with 4 victims, all between the ages of 12 and 17. Authorities say 2 were sexually assaulted. 3 of the girls were students in a program with Musso as their mentor. The other knew him from outside of school. In a string of interactions between January and September of this year, police say Musso groomed the victims, recorded video of them, took photos, and assaulted them. He faces multiple new charges related to voyeurism, child pornography, indecent exposure, and luring. My apologies, I had a little snafu saying a couple words there. Words are hard sometimes. Another cold snap coming, but it's Christmas. If you are celebrating here in Winnipeg, for sure, you can even get outside and not have to bundle too much up.
Yeah, we are looking at a warm up. We have a couple more days to get through. We have a couple more days to get through. And then we'll be on an upward slide or an upward climb back up toward the freezing mark, actually.
Yeah, not too bad.
I'll break it all down for you. Let's look at our upper level winds right now. So a few things to point out here. First, I'm going to draw your attention to this area of low pressure over the Rockies right now. This will bring us a slight chance of some flurries closer to the weekend into early Saturday morning. So I wouldn't read too much into this right now, but you can see this Arctic ridge in the jet stream that is really built in here. That's what's allowing some of this very cold northwesterly air to flow right back down into Manitoba and northwestern Ontario. So that means another cold night ahead. We're looking at another day tomorrow where we're below seasonal, but then things start to change around from there. So here's that snow, that area of low pressure that brought us some snow through the overnight hours, now off into the upper Midwest part of the United States and into southern Ontario. This will bring some snow to parts of the greater Toronto area through the night and into the day tomorrow. High pressure keeps us clear into the morning. That's going to really allow temperatures to really fall as we get through the overnight hours into early Friday morning. And then there's that feature, that area of low pressure I was talking about. As it slides to the southeast, it pretty much misses us. It does clip southwestern Manitoba. Again, not looking at much in terms of accumulation. I'll talk about that in a moment. But as we get into Saturday, there's a good chance that we could see a few scattered flurries as we get into the morning hours. Otherwise, Saturday, a mainly cloudy day. Clouds feature as we get into the day on Sunday even as well. So we're looking at a bit of a cloudy weekend. The trade-off, though, temperatures that climb above seasonal for this time of the year once again. So snowfall accumulation, really this takes us out to supper time Saturday, looking at, a skiff of snow. Really not much compared to what we saw in parts of southwestern Manitoba today, but certainly could see a dusting of snow as we get into the morning hours on Saturday. Overnight tonight, though, temperatures really sinking once again. So minus 25, a wake-up temperature in Winnipeg, looking at minus 27 in Brandon first thing in the morning, and even cracking minus 30 through parts of northwestern Manitoba. With the wind chill factored in, this is closer to minus 40 with the wind. So we're looking at another very cold morning tomorrow. Things get better from there. I mean, another below seasonal day tomorrow at minus 18. Winter starts with a high of minus 9 with a chance of flurries in the morning. Some peaks of sunshine later Saturday, and then Brittany, we're climbing back up close to the freezing mark, actually, as we get toward Christmas Day and Boxing Day. Our 7-day forecast is coming up.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
We have more stories coming up. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Stay with us. A social services sector in our downtown library is slated to close, and your property taxes are going up. Mayor Scott Gillingham was live in studio this morning with CBC's Marcy Marcusa.
Well, this preliminary budget, yes, it proposes a 5.9% property tax increase, but there's also clear instruction in the budget to control costs. So our CFO has been instructed, and she's already started to look at how the city can do a better job within departments of controlling costs. And in fact, Marcy, one of the first things that she'll be tackling is some of the highest priced, as it were, budgets, the budgets that are the highest budgets, drilling into those to see where we can find efficiencies and cost savings as well. So I take that very seriously. I know that if we as a council and I as a mayor are asking property taxpayers to pay a little more, they also expect us to control our costs. I'll add, though, that the City of Winnipeg, even with this property tax increase, will still have the lowest municipal property taxes of any major city in Canada. And we have been really behind most other major cities in raising property taxes.
Why have we been so behind? I mean, you were finance chair for the city long before you were mayor. Were you screaming at the tables, we need to raise taxes? And if you weren't, why not?
Well, we did talk for sure always about the need for more revenue. Several things happened. We had a financial stabilization reserve that we depended upon, call it the rainy day fund. And we depended on that to kind of backstop us in years that there was some over expenditures. Well, through COVID and through a series of other things, including a funding freeze years ago from the provincial government, that financial stabilization reserve has been drained down. So we don't have access to that.
Jeff Rawadi was here talking about it, yes.
Right. So we need to raise more revenue.
Gage Helbridge, the Prairie Director for the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, looks at this from a different perspective. He actually says you're breaking a 2022 election promise because you said the tax hike will be 3.5%. So to look at this from that perspective, what's your response to that?
In my campaign platform in 2022, I made two commitments. One, to do all I can to keep the property taxes at 3.5% increase per year. Second of all, to get a new funding formula from the province of Manitoba. We have not got the latter. And so we're at a place right now where we're going to control expenses, but we have to raise revenue. And we've heard from residents of Winnipeg of what they want their priorities to be. In fact, there were two significant polls that took place this fall, and residents of Winnipeg said overwhelmingly they want better roads, and they want safer communities. And so the primary investments of this 5.9% property tax increase go to fixing roads and increasing community safety, public safety.
Listeners will be upset if I don't ask you about this because a lot of them wrote in about the Millennium Library community connections being cut. Will you reopen something else downtown, or is there still a chance you'll leave that open? People are writing that that community service is vital, and we're at a time where we need to help people, social problems growing downtown. We've talked about this a lot. So people are having trouble making sense of why you're cutting that out of the library.
Well, first of all, we had only committed the funding to the end of 2024. The primary services that community connection space delivers are really provincial services. We talked a moment ago about why the city of Winnipeg is in some of the budget challenges we're in.
But this can't be just jurisdictional. It's a city of Winnipeg problem if our downtown has people that aren't being served.
But we have done as a city, I would argue as a mayor, we've done more for social needs in our downtown. We have 24/7 safe spaces we invest in. We invest in mobile outreach. These really also are our primary library services, and so we have increased community hosts there as well to help people. We've talked to the province, and I think they're looking at other ways to meet the needs downtown. But are
you depending on the province to fill the gap then? Is this a push to them to say, you fill this gap?
We've had discussions with the province about some of the services that we have been providing in that space are really provincial services. And we have to be aware of this. When governments get into mission creep, the costs go up and up and up. And so we have, I think, a good partner in the province right now to find ways to partner together to provide those services, for the province to provide those services at another location.
Brandon police are dealing with what they say is an alarming number of overdoses in the city. The chief says ODs have spiked. Drug-related fatalities have doubled over the last 2 years, from 3 deaths in 2022 to 7 so far this year. Brandon's Manitoba Harm Reduction team says illicit drugs are becoming more dangerous because they can be more potent or have unexpected chemicals like sodium or herbicides. That means it's easier for people to overdose. It says the grief from unexpected drug-related deaths is overwhelming in the community.
It's devastating. It seems, I think I've said this before, but loss after loss, and we're still seeing that, is that people really aren't recovering from the last loss before there's another loss. And it's really, really painful for people.
There are steps people can take to stay safe. The group says to watch for drug alerts, carry naloxone, test drugs before using, and never use alone. Legislation making it faster and easier to identify and release innocent people from prison received royal assent this week. An independent body will be established to review wrongful conviction applications. It's a bittersweet moment for the woman who lobbied for this change after her innocent brother spent 23 years in prison. Chris Glover has more.
This is a ring that he bought himself, though.
A subtle yet powerful symbol that's pushed Susan Milgaard to keep up the fight to make Canada's justice system more just.
He's with me all the time. I'll be doing something, and then the ring will move and it will give me strength.
In 1969, Susan was 14 when her 16-year-old brother David was convicted of rape and murder in Saskatoon. He spent 23 years in prison until ultimately being exonerated. For decades, his family fought for an independent review board to investigate potential cases of the wrongfully convicted. Their efforts have finally paid off. Changes are being made to the criminal code.
I'm really happy. I'm actually very sad because Mom and David aren't here to see it. So I still have the original.
You got the original.
Yes.
Prior to this, the only avenue was to appeal directly to Canada's Justice Minister, a rare and laborious effort.
It's going to ensure that the experience of the Milgaard family is not repeated.
Justice Minister Arif Virani touting the new law at the Toronto offices of Innocence Canada, a nonprofit currently working on some 130 cases of potential miscarriages of justice.
Do your best to get it right, because if you don't, David and Joyce Milgaard's law is lurking, waiting to correct justice.
The group's co-president, Ron Dalton, spent 8.5 years in prison for murder. He was exonerated after winning on appeal.
What we're now trying to do is make sure we find better ways to catch it and fix it much more quickly, so we can all have some confidence in our justice system.
The new law requires convicts exhaust appeal processes before turning to the independent commission.
It may not have actually affected my particular case, but many of the other cases we would have dealt with much faster.
The Justice Minister says it will take time to hire the commissioners, but he's committed to it.
Every single day is another day that how many wrongfully convicted are still in prison.
Even though you might think her advocacy is over.
Not just David and Mum are keeping an eye on him, I will be too.
Susan says she'll be watching closely to ensure what's now in law actually comes into practice. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
A mass rape case that made headlines around the world has drawn to a close. A Frenchman has been convicted of drugging and raping his wife and inviting dozens of strangers to abuse her. 50 other men have also been sentenced to prison. Sarah Levitt has more.
Surrounded by throngs of media and flanked by police, Gisèle Pellicot makes a triumphant exit from court into a crowd of loyal supporters. The 72-year-old inspiring to many for her courage and strength as her husband and dozens of others stood trial for drugging and raping her for years. The verdicts came down Thursday, one after the other, guilty, guilty, guilty. Most carted away. I have confidence, she says, that the future holds the possibility of women and men living with respect and mutual understanding. During the trial, Gisèle described her 50-year relationship with Dominique Pellicot as a happy one. She had no idea that at home, he was secretly drugging her food and recruiting men online to rape her while she was unconscious, telling them to park here by the sports field in their town of Mazon to conceal what would be going on just 100 meters away. Eventually caught, police found 20,000 explicit videos and photos of the rapes. In court, in front of Gisèle, the accused men learned their fate. 47, guilty of rape, including one of raping his own wife, 2 of attempted rape, and 2 others of sexual assault. The heaviest sentence handed down to Dominique Pellicot, 20 years in prison, the maximum. His lawyer says they haven't decided yet if he'll appeal. The other men received between 3 and 15 years, below what the prosecution had hoped for. A few of them walk free with suspended sentences or having already served their time. Those decisions disappointing Pellico's children and enraging others. This supporter says it's making a mockery of sexual assault victims. Giselle, though, says she respects the decision of the judges. We only know Giselle's name because she wanted us to, demanding this trial play out in public because the shame wasn't hers. She also used the last name Pellico during the trial, though she's no longer married, to reclaim it for her grandchildren. Now she's shed it, going back to her maiden name as she tries to begin life anew. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, London.
The man accused of killing a U.S. healthcare executive earlier this month is now back in New York. Brian Thompson was shot to death on a busy street in Midtown Manhattan. The suspect, Luigi Mangione, was flown to New York from Pennsylvania, where he was arrested last week. He's been charged with a number of counts by New York State, including murder as an act of terrorism. That carries a maximum sentence of life in prison. Mangione is also facing new federal charges, including murder, stalking, and firearms offenses. Some of those offenses carry the death penalty. Coming up, we'll tell you how visitors to the Assiniboine Park Zoo might one day be able to watch operations on animals and learn. The new proposal underway, straight ahead. Plans are underway for a new animal hospital to be built at Assiniboine Park Zoo. And for the first time, visitors would be able to watch procedures being done on animals through a glass-enclosed viewing area to help educate the public. CBC's Zubina Ahmed brings you more.
The new animal hospital at Assiniboine Park would be located just off the main pathway and just inside the main zoo entrance. The size is estimated to be 20,000 square feet, which is 3 times the size of the old one, which was built in 1965. Raymond Karasowicz, president and CEO of the Assiniboine Park Conservancy, says that the new hospital will provide high-quality care to the 1,300 animals in the hospital.
So we're going to have a number of different spaces inside the animal hospital. So we're going to have things like an x-ray suite, a treatment room. There's going to be recovery rooms. There will be a surgical suite where animals can undergo procedures. There will be some areas where they have recovery and some holding facilities where the animals can stay before and after their procedures.
Karasowicz says the total budget for the hospital is $20 million. The city of Winnipeg has committed $6 million for the next 3 years, and they're looking for more funding from the government and private partners. He says the hospital will encourage public engagement to the glass-enclosed viewing area.
That viewing area will be for certain procedures where the public can come and interact, and they can see exactly how that care is delivered. They can, sort of engage with and have, zoo chats and discussions with our veterinary team. And it's just more of a public-facing, a more transparent operation.
Karasowicz says that the general zoo admission fees will provide access to the public viewing area. Construction will begin in the next 18 months, and it's expected to be ready by 2029. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Police in central Spain have cracked a recent murder case after finding images on Google Maps of someone loading into a car what looked like a body bag. These street views show a man leaning over something wrapped in cloth in the trunk. They were captured by a passing Google mapping vehicle in October. Police were looking into a kidnapping case of a missing male. His girlfriend and her ex-partner have been arrested on suspicion. Last week, a torso believed to be the victim was discovered at a local cemetery. Police say the Google Maps image is part of several clues as the investigation continues. Riley's back in now, and Riley, a little bit of snow in our future, a little bit of cold weather, and then some warm up.
As I said, just a couple more days to get through, really just tomorrow with the cold weather, a couple more cold nights yet to come, and then we start to climb the hill.
It's a nice little present, whether you're celebrating Christmas or Hanukkah or nothing at all. It's a little gift from you.
Absolutely. Think of it that way. Let's take a look at your dog walking forecast for your Friday. So we are looking at, as I mentioned, another cold morning tomorrow. So certainly bundle up tomorrow, although I think Makwa, I have a sneaking suspicion, really enjoys the snowy, cold weather. Thanks, Ariel, for sending this picture. And you can keep sending yours to talkback@cbc.ca. So as mentioned, we're looking at minus 25 first thing in the morning. Our overnight temperature more like minus 24, but because our sunset is so late in the morning now, close to 8:30, we'll see that temperature drop a little bit into the morning hours. Minus 18 through the afternoon, southwest winds at 10, fairly light tomorrow, but might get a bit of a breeze out there, particularly in the afternoon. And then we start to see winds picking up slightly into the evening hours, minus 21 by supper time. Here's where we got to today, minus 15 officially at the airport. Downtown we got to minus 14 as expected this afternoon, and certainly below seasonal really across the province today. Minus 16s through Brandon and Dauphin, and not even getting above minus 20 through Thompson, Lynn Lake, and along the Hudson Bay coast. Gillam minus 24 through the afternoon hours tonight, and that sets us up for a cold night ahead. So Swan River, clear skies, minus 27, minus 27s, minus 28s into the Westman region. A little bit of cloud cover will keep things slightly warmer into northwestern Ontario, minus 25 in Dryden overnight, Red Lake at minus 27. Then you get into the minus 30s into northern Manitoba, minus 31 in Lynn Lake, minus 30s through to Dooley Lake into Thompson. Factoring in the little bit of wind that we'll see, this is frostbite on exposed skin in less than 10 minutes in some cases in northern Manitoba tonight. So quite cool overnight. Gillam minus 28 tonight. We start clear and sunny tomorrow morning, barely getting above -25 by lunchtime in Thompson tomorrow, -26 by lunch, and then dipping back down as we see sun setting around 4 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow at -26 in Thompson. In southern Manitoba, looking at temperatures again starting very cold tomorrow morning. Your wake-up temperature in Brandon at -27, -24 in Peguis. We will start to see a bit of cloud cover starting to build into the west as we get through the day on Friday. This ahead of another weak area of instability that will cross through as we get later. So that brings us to the afternoon hours, a slight chance of some flurries through Melita and Verdon, but sunshine back to the East Brittany into northwestern Ontario, -19 in Kenora by late afternoon.
Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Seeing the Nutcracker is a holiday season tradition for many people around the world. But for one Canadian woman, it's more than that. She was so inspired by the classical ballet, she started collecting actual nutcrackers more than 60 years ago. Today, her collection is nothing short of spectacular.
I started in 1962. My first Nutcracker when my husband and I got married. And it's grown since then. I'm Gloria Archer, and I'm the one who collects all these Nutcrackers. I think a lot of them started with the ballet, the Nutcracker ballet that comes out every Christmas. And I love the music and the dancing, and I started with one little one, and it just kind of grew from there. I get them for gifts from my kids. And I have a very special one here, and my granddaughter's going to kill me. But she did this for me when she was 3 years old. I just love it. Well, my oldest grandson wanted to become a chef, which he did eventually. And my husband used to do a lot of woodworking, and there's the chefs and the two Nutcrackers that are like woodworking people. And that was given to me by my grandson, my oldest grandson. My granddaughter keeps counting them for me every year, and I think I have somewhere between 100. I usually start about the middle of October, just putting the Nutcrackers up. Yeah, I set them all up, and I try to set them up when, like, you know, that the Nutcracker over there, that's from the ballet, so that's all of them there together, and then like the ones that I got from my grandson, and, you know, trying to keep them into a set. You know, like anybody's collection, that they like things, and they enjoy them, that's why they collect them. And I love Christmas. Christmas is my thing.
Well, Christmas is now less than a week away, and the spirit of the holiday season is shining bright in households all over the country. But some families can be a lot more intense about it than others, as CBC's Robin Miller found out.
Everybody come on, quick, look at the lights!
Move over, Clark Griswold. Sean Turcott is in town.
I believe we have the brightest house in the city. I know because I pay the hydro bills. We have completely maxed out our electrical capacity.
With movie quality props, lifelike cutouts, quotes,
"Is your house on fire, Clark?"
and 7,500 bulbs, the home is hard to beat.
The great pride that we have is we've stuck with the old-fashioned lights. These are the old-fashioned glass incandescent C9 bulbs that we all grew up with back in the day.
But it's not the only decked-out house in the city. Taffy Lane is a must-visit. Nearly every house gets in the spirit.
It's just special. It's Christmassy. It's if you don't believe, come to Taffy Lane. You'll believe.
It has the latest, the greatest, but also the most nostalgic. Like here, where these Santas represent tradition.
My nanny passed away 5 years ago, a week before Christmas, so I kind of do it for her and for other seniors and families and kids to come for a free activity and forget about all your worries in the world.
Leaving your worries behind. It's also easy here with a custom-built Ferris wheel.
It started a few years ago. I just, started, looking at the house and thinking, well, I need a few more lights. And so a few more lights became a few more lights, and then it kind of grew from there.
The snowball effect. It happens a lot.
We started off small, and then it just kind of
kind of blew up from there. A big part of our display is we wanted that family feel.
Merry Christmas!
Their elaborate display even has approval from the man himself.
I think this display is quite magical. It gets the ho-ho-ho of approval.
Back in Stittsville, the Turcotte say, sadly, this will be their last year.
So right now, it still feels awesome and the same feeling of fulfillment that we've always had because there's so many people still coming. Afterwards in January, I think it'll sink in that that's it.
Which means the title for Best and Brightest will be up for grabs next year. Robin Miller, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, coming up after the break, we're sticking with the holiday season and making it bright in a different way. Volunteers pack up 1,000 bags for seniors this holiday season. And of course, Riley is back with a last check on our forecast. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.
All right, last day of school before the holidays. And if you're bundling up the kids to head out first thing in the morning, maybe they've got a Christmas concert or something like that tomorrow. A cold one, minus 25 to start with a mainly clear sky. Then we get into some sunshine through the afternoon, minus 20 by lunchtime, and heading home to a minus 18 in the afternoon, a partly cloudy sky. So minus 9 for the first day of winter on Saturday, our shortest day of the year. And then we climb up from there, minus 7 with some cloud cover on Sunday, minus 5 for Monday, minus 3 for Tuesday. And then as we head into Christmas Day on Wednesday, that Christmas ball is on the wrong day there. I just noticed that. minus 2 for Wednesday and minus 1 for Boxing Day. I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, it's there for Christmas Eve.
There we go.
Exactly. A group of volunteers in Nova Scotia hope to make Christmas a little brighter for seniors who are low income or alone this time of year.
Their quest to package up 1,000 gift bags is our daily lift.
We have a little bit of everything. So we have a mixture of personal care like body wash, toothpaste, and then we have some fun things like ornaments, some treats, scarves, hats, mitts that we actually have so many people around the HRM that are knitting and sending them into us. So probably about 14 years ago, I lost my grandmother and I just missed shopping for her Christmas. Looked around, could not find an Angel Tree or any other organizations that do something like this. So I just made a phone call to a local senior home, was given a senior, and then it just grew from there. And here we are today, hopefully helping about 1,000 seniors.
Why focus on seniors?
They're probably the most vulnerable in our community and often forgot about. So there's lots of great organizations out there that raise for women and children, but the seniors kind of get forgotten a little bit. So it means a lot to them. We hear where the Christmas cards they get in their cheer bags are still on their fridge, you know, the next year. So it just makes a difference, and it's such a small thing.
I saw a post on Facebook and I signed up right away in 2017, and it started out with adopting a senior, then it started with helping with cheer bags, and it moved on to deliveries and just keeps growing. And I've delivered some where they weren't expecting it and some where they're expecting it, but still they're filled with joy, and you can just tell that it's made their day and made their holidays, and they're very thankful, and they've given me little cards and little gifts to give to Robin, and it's really nice.
Someone is actually thinking about them, and that just doesn't carry joy that moment. It lasts, you know, throughout the season, just knowing that, again, someone thought about them and they're not alone.
I love it so much, and it doesn't have to be something that costs a lot of money. It's the thought that counts.
And all started with one person's idea, and it's grown.
One person can make a difference.
Exactly.
Have a wonderful night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
See ya.